Is it time to pack the court or unpack the court? Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. So, should we unpack the Supreme Court after Mitch McConnell's little dance with Merrick Garland, etc.? John Vecchione is with us. He is a senior attorney with the New Civil Liberties Alliance, a conservative group. NCLAlegal.org is the website. NCLA Legal is also the Twitter handle. John, welcome to the program. So why do you object to unpacking Mitch McConnell's court packing?
Well, obviously, I disagree with the way you phrased it. We've had, for 150 years, 9 members of the Supreme Court, and that was from the Judiciary Act of 1868, which was specifically put in to make sure that the slave states did not have the influence on the Supreme Court they'd had before. It was, in fact, this 9, the number picked to stop the slave states from controlling the appellate courts. And it's been a good number. And the way that the current bill that's by Markey and Nadler, what they want to do is put 4 senators in, 4 justices in. All
you mean 4 new justices?
Yeah. 4 new justices picked at the same time. Now, if you didn't want some ideological outcome, but you did think that there should be more justices, what you do is have it staggered. And they haven't done that. So I think it's kind of a raw effort to not have checks and balances. And I think that it would undermine the even the liberal precedents that the Supreme Court has would all be undermined because it would be looked upon as a rubber stamp for whatever the current group of people running the Senate and the House think.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that just a rational first step would be to say, Merrick Garland should have been in the court. Mitch McConnell decided he was going to pack the court. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died within a window that Mitch McConnell just a couple of years earlier had said, that really should go to the next president, as it had before. The packing the court and unpacking the court has been done repeatedly throughout our history for purely political purposes. You'll recall in 1800, after John Adams lost the election of 1800, he and the Federalists reduced the number of members on the Supreme Court so that Jefferson wouldn't get an appointee. Jefferson came in and expanded the court. We had the same thing after, when Andrew Johnson became president. The Congress, which was rather opposed to Johnson, actually reduced the number of members of the court so that Johnson couldn't appoint anybody. You're right. After Johnson was out of office and Ulysses Grant was president, they took it back up to 9. But repeatedly, the court has been basically a political football. Mitch McConnell has been playing political football. Not only that, he blew up the filibuster. You've got a guy who has been credibly accused of rape and sexual assault on multiple occasions. Fewer than 1% of his papers were ever even released. I mean, it seems to me like the legitimacy, you've got one member of the court, Clarence Thomas, whose wife helped organize a rally that led to an attempt at bringing down our democracy. I can't see how this court could have any less credibility. And it seems to me that adding 4 members to it might, number one, expand that credibility, and might, number 2, deal with the problem that John Roberts himself identified a couple of years ago, which is that the courts are overwhelmed in terms of the number of cases they have versus the number of judges that they have.
The Supreme Court isn't overwhelmed. It's the lower courts that have a big docket. The Supreme Court's been taking fewer and fewer cases. I would say that the Mitch McConnell and the other things you mentioned are largely political hardball, but they have not changed the number on the court, except you are absolutely correct on the Andrew Johnson thing. That action, and I'll just say for your listeners, the Republican Congress of the Civil War did not want Johnson putting anyone on the court, so they kept reducing the number down to 7. And then after, from the act I mentioned in 1868, they fixed it at 9. Since that time, though, there's never been a change in the number of Supreme Court justices, and that's 150 years, and that's a lot of water under the bridge. I think, though, that the the Supreme Court is looked upon by the populace. It's the most popular branch we have right now, even though Joe Biden's approval numbers
That's
are
not saying a lot today.
Trump. It's damning with faint praise, right? But
yes.
it is held in higher respect in either the Congress or the presidency, and part of that is, as I said earlier, if you really thought that there should be more judges and you thought that there had been skullduggery, you wouldn't have the number 4 to put in the number 13. Now, I don't know how many of your listeners look at horoscopes, but I know that they're very popular in the United States, more popular than I think they should be. And the number 13 is not a good number for folks who like that sort of thing. So I think
it's one of my lucky numbers.
Reason.
But John, let's stipulate that we both agree that the court should not be a political body. Can we agree on that?
The job of the justices is different from that of legislatures, and it shouldn't be done that way. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. Okay. So what are the things, and I think that we can probably both agree that through most of its history, the court actually has, not always, but probably more often than it should, acted as if it were a political body. So there's a whole bunch of solutions that have been proposed. Expand the court, put in term limits, which would be constitutional as long as those people continue to be federal judges. There are other things that have been suggested over the years. What would you do to reduce the politicization, the political bias of the court? For example, you had Thomas's wife in 2000 when he voted to stop the vote, the constitutionally mandated recount down in Florida that was ordered by the Supreme Court down there, the Florida Supreme Court. When he ordered that stopped, his wife was vetting people for the George W. Bush White House. A clear conflict of interest. You've had Scalia's son arguing at least 2 cases that Scalia was involved in. Clear conflicts of interest. And those are just the tip of the iceberg. What do we do? How do we change this? I mean, is it as simple as something like, well, hey, let's put cameras in the courthouse. Let's make deliberations more open. Let's do term limits. I mean, where would you begin?
Well, I think, first, I don't think that the outcomes have been political the way you and I normally mean political. For instance, there are often Justice Kagan doesn't always rule the way the Democrats would want her to rule. And Justice Thomas and Scalia didn't always rule the way Republicans would want them to rule. Now, obviously, you can look at the hot-button cases and you go, hey, I think something's going on here. But I do think that that one thing that has happened is right now there's an effort to intimidate the court to not, in my view, do their jobs. I mean, if you look what happened with Roosevelt, he threatened to pack the Supreme Court and add members, and everyone rejected it. But the judges changed their views. They were intimidated, and then Roosevelt did what you have to do if you really want to change.
2 judges changed their rules. Owen Roberts was the main one.
He won election after election, and he replaced all the justices. He appointed them all.
Sure.
And that's how you change them.
Yeah, no, I get that, but you're not going to have a 4-term president again. Number one, we altered the Constitution on that regard, and well, we're out of time. John Vecchione, fascinating conversation. Senior attorney, new conservative civil liberties alliance, the New Civil Liberties Alliance. NCLAlegal.org is the website. NCLA Legal is the Twitter handle. John, good talking with you. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.